Thank you. First of all, thank you everyone for inviting me and for listening to me. And as everyone will hear, I'm basically making a pitch for philosophical aid. And why I chose this picture was to really draw attention to some of the problems that we face, that there are lots of us in lots of different parts of the world, with lots of different disciplines, widely scattered, desperately trying to communicate with each other against a void of blackness that we struggle to engage. So to start with, I thought it was important to define co-creation so we're clear about what I at least am talking about. And some of you, either online or in the room, will know about the COSY project, which was how I was introduced to it. And they were really quite clear and explicit. And as you can see from this slide, co-creation is quite a narrow part of co-production. It's a smaller component, and it's within these the two red lines that I've drawn. And what I want you to notice that makes it fairly unique is the cooperation of professionals and service users. I'm going to use that term in both terms in the most generic sense possible, both in the creation and design phase and in the delivery phase. So, and if you therefore think about what in the business world is the RASI acronym, yeah, namely responsible, accountable, consulted, and informed. Conventional co-creation is about co-production, is about service users being consulted and informed. Co-creation moves it into both responsibility and in some implications by, for example, lived experience practitioners in health and in other equivalent in social care areas, also accountable as well. So it's quite a specific subset of co-production more generally, as I'm understanding it. And the next thing to say about it is it's been around for a very long time. The ideas first dawned, and those of you who are my age can remember them swilling around the universities in the 1970s. By the 1990s, people were noticing that a municipality in Sweden called Jönköping was not only combining service users and professionals at all stages in the delivery of its local services, but additionally was actually leading Sweden in terms of the delivery of those services. And this was because of certain charismatic individuals in those services driving it forward. And lots of people in public policy, public administration, social work, broader welfare studies, marketing, commerce, all got very excited. And money was thrown at this concept like it was going out of fashion. COSY was one of, and only the latest, of several EU framework grants, which, as you know, are like Euro millions, getting thrown at the problem. Loads of people adopted it, and the Netherlands in particular, tried to do this, tried to create a variety of networks to achieve this. And what I'm summarizing here is a 30-year review of how they did. And they had 3 cycles, all of which ended in failure. And the failure was all around, as I've indicated, as it grew from its very small and exciting beginnings, issues about protecting hierarchy, about how it would integrate with markets. And incidentally, I'm not knocking markets. For the benefit of those of you who don't have economics immediately to hand, profit is only a side effect of a market. The major job of a market is determining value, important part of values-based practice. You may not have realized it, but the question we were asked earlier about what sort of whether we prefer to 50-50 live or die, or did we prefer to survive in remission, that is actually how a market works. That and that is a market-based question. I'm in NICE, as I said, so I know these things. And they all got stuck. And I'm quite into, and that's in the Netherlands. And those of you who don't know, the Netherlands is about as democratic a country as you're going to find in the world. It may be slightly less so than Sweden, but if I tell you, even Sweden couldn't scale up young coping, it still exists. It's still a world beacon. It ran an international conference last year, and still people can't copy what it does. So, what can we do? Well, first thing is, we need a case study to work on. And my preference, which is a target of opportunity as I'm in it, is our perinatal services. And this represents a series of maps done by something called the Maternal Mental Health Alliance, who in the Netherlands, they would be called a network. They're a collaborative group of service user, academic, institutional, governmental bodies, all of whom have an interest and who've been combining their efforts in this instance to ensure that perinatal services are available. That's it. That was their first goal. And what you can see here is a pattern of success going over a few years from 2015 to 2019. But as my own research indicates, just because you've got success, that doesn't mean the success continues. Priorities shift, key people move, there are unintended consequences. A good example is that expansion you just see there was based on, in part, an academic study in 2015 showing the incredible economic gains perinatal services provided by ensuring that children grew up properly. But I can tell you that simultaneous to that, the early years services we had in this country, which were evidence-based and successful, called Sure Start, were collapsed over the same time period. So you need to be aware that it's more than just having the evidence, or indeed having people want to do it. This is the same evidence and the same values in one institution doing very well, while in another institution, not pictured, it did terribly. So how can we fix it? And here I have to launch into some details of administrative law, I'm afraid. There is something called a local offer, which is a legal creation of an act in Parliament called the Special Educational Needs and Disability Act. And there's a whole bunch of guidance that comes out of that, and it's statutory. And that includes this concept called a local offer. And this is basically that all the relevant local agencies in an area have to say, these are the things we're going to give you if your child has a special educational need and disability. One area I'm going to need philosophical help is establishing convincingly that we can extend that concept of special educational needs back to around birth. Differentiating between academic and personal education becomes more and more difficult the younger you get. It's most difficult at birth. I believe that it's obvious, but as has already been pointed out, believing you're obvious is in the realm of values. I'm sorry, I'm still putting the camera.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And there is a quirk of not only UK, but it's influential around the world. If you have established, and the technical term is a legitimate expectation, yeah, of the that a local offer has been given, they can't take it away. Not allowed. And saying we've not got the money to give it anymore is not a good enough reason. That's also been described in case law. And if you're wondering why this isn't raised more commonly, I give you epistemic injustice in the legal field. But the key element is this is a promise to the recipients. It's not a promise to the professionals. They can do what they like to professionals. We have it all the time. This is why professionals find their careers being derailed right, left, and centre. So what I am wondering here is if we can we use co-creation to ensure the creation of local offers, and then because the part of the services that who are creating it are the recipients of that service, it becomes much harder to withdraw the service later. And this leads me to my final slide, which is the opportunity. The Maternal Mental Health Network, I've already mentioned, it works. You've seen the maps, its delivery. We're also in a situation where perinatal psychiatrists hold a range of senior positions in the Royal College of Psychiatry. We were part of the network, and we were very successful in pushing that map change forward. It's still driving, but obviously, like all policies, it's competing in a policy landscape. Now, you remember earlier I said it was a scaling problem. One great advantage of professional organizations is that they can work across scale. The Royal College of Psychiatrists meets with governments, you know, its senior members get gongs, you know, all that sort of stuff. But at the other end, the guidance it produces is used by local clinicians at local level to support and defend and promote local services. I know I'm sounding like something out of Little Britain, but here, local is good. And we are still in a situation where early years is a governmental priority, but like all priorities, it has to compete with other priorities, and getting it wrong can get the priorities wrong. And even though you think it's a priority, it isn't there. And this is one thing I've learned from my public policy administration work, and you should all have learned from COVID, yeah? If you're told this is a very important policy, but there's not enough money to deliver it, what it actually means it isn't important enough because everything that's upstream of it has sucked up the money first. That's a very important message. Most people in the health service have their idea of policy and money the wrong way round. Policy drives funding, not the other way round. So what I'm hoping is that if I can create links between the college where I'm sat, extending down into services, between public policy people who are not weirdly linked into this. Did you notice that when I mentioned marketing, economics, welfare in relation to policy and co-creation, I did not mention health. I did not mention psychiatry. I did not mention philosophy. They haven't been part of that literature by and large, apart from one or two people. And the whole area, vital to our work, completely separate. So I'm trying to pull this together and also create a case study where it shows that if we can get it together, we don't get caught in the same trap as the Netherlands and yet repeat the cycle yet one more time in yet one more country. Thank you all very much for your attention. If there's time, I will take questions, or we can wait.